Paranormal Roundtable, everyone. Paranormal Roundtable.
Whoop, whoop.
You did a Diablo on that one. That's Diablo's little woot woot. Folks, welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host. I'm a guy. I'm just a dude playing another dude. And this is Tony.
Yep.
And we're here with Anthony today. And let's get that email address out real quick. Let's get it out of the way.
The DasWolfman88@gmail.com and wolfandsal@gmail.com. Come email us your stories. Anything you want.
Yeah. Actually, the Wolf and Sal email address, you can still send them to those. But I haven't. I've talked to Sal very little in the last couple of weeks. We still communicate, but he's dealing with some issues, so he doesn't have a lot of time to put into the show right now. He doesn't have a lot of time to do much of anything. He's got some serious stuff going on. So
yeah, it might be easier just to send it to the Das Wolf.
Yeah, just send it to daswolfman88@gmail.com, and when Sal returns, which eventually he probably will come and do something. Then he can bring us whatever stories you have over there if you've sent them to that one. But if you have sent them to that one, send them to the other one too, because Sal has been kind of the custodian of that email address. And then he just brings me stories and says, hey, is this one interesting? And we'll go over it, and I'll throw out all the ones that he likes, and I'll keep mine. I'm just kidding. No, seriously, I'm not. But yeah, and we'll go over it, and then we'll pick out some really juicy ones, and then we'll follow up. And some of you people have talked to me, and we've gone over your stories, and I've been like, your story is terrible, and I won't put your story.
I mean,
that's pretty much it.
It's not my story, so it's just basically losing. I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? So, what we're doing today, we needed to make a couple of announcements. We have a couple things we need to talk about real quick, and let's get all that out of the way. First thing I wanted to talk about was we started two new groups
on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. One is Paranormal Encounters, and the other one is Paranormal Lounge. Both of those were, I don't know if you want to call it the brainchild. That sounds kind of sophisticated, but it's the idea of my wife. She had those for a while and didn't really do anything with them. And then she decided that she wanted to do Paranormal Lounge. And I think it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be real laid back. It's just kind of anything goes. Paranormal Encounters is mine. Mine in particular, I'm an admin in both, but Paranormal Encounters is one that it's like where you can come on and literally tell your encounters.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like Roundtable, except it's basically the same format to where like you just come on and you say whatever you like, any stories you have, and you know you're welcome to post whatever you need to, and you don't have to worry about us being like, oh, we don't like that.
Yeah, as
we're not
long
going
as
to regulate it.
Yeah, we're not going to, but it's story based.
Yeah, it has to be story based.
Yeah, we want stories, not just like something like, oh, check this out, this footage of Bigfoot or pictures or whatever. Stories, encounters that you had. That's kind of what we're looking for in that group. But it's not like we're going to throw you out the box because you do something that's just stupid. Okay. Yeah. But anyways, like I said, Paranormal Lounge, the admins of that group, Angelique Boats and Anna Choates. So those
and
two.
Your wife.
Yeah, and my wife. So it's kind of like the ladies' thing. They're Paranormal Lounge, hanging out and having a cocktail, talking about creepy stuff. And so I thought that those were great choices for admins in that group, and those are great. They're awesome ladies. So I just thought that would just make sense. Angelique is actually Ken Gerhardt's fiance, and Ken Gerhardt's a very good friend of ours. And so that's what's going on with that. Paranormal Encounters, like I said, is going to be me and my buddy Chief, and we're going to be regulating up in there. So Scorpion and Diablo will be moderators of that group, and it'll be me, Tony, and Chief, kind of our thing. And, of course, Anthony will be lurking around in all those groups, so watch out for him. And we have Paranormal Roundtable, which is directly related to the show. Folks, what I would like to do with Paranormal Roundtable as a group, too, is maybe have more discussions about episodes of the show. That's kind of, because it's kind of anything goes. We're real flexible. We're kind of laid back about stuff. But that's kind of the point of making these other groups, so that you can kind of do anything goes with Paranormal Lounge. Paranormal Encounters is more about encounters people have. And then Paranormal Roundtable will start to kind of become more centered around the show. And that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, and, because not like we said a couple of times, that not all of our viewers are on YouTube. So there might not be a way for them to comment. And they can go on Facebook and comment about the show and put their comments about it on there.
Yep. And so and we're going to start doing this thing on Paranormal Roundtable on Mondays. We're going to start trying to keep it every Monday. We're going to kind of do a what did you think of Friday's show type thing. And we're going to ask for people's opinions and whatever. And you'll get your trolls that are going to say mean things and whatever. And that's
they make me laugh, to be honest. Like, I don't let it bother me. Like, if it's a good, funny comment and they say something and mean towards me, and it usually makes me laugh for the most part.
I don't. I get very angry, and then I try to find out where you live, and then your pets die. Yeah, but besides that, let's just keep moving forward with the niceties. Okay, let's just forget about all the bad things about me and just think of all the good stuff. Just the good stuff.
And I have an announcement too. I started a Twitter. It's
we started a Twitter.
We started. It's a Twitter for the group.
It's cute how you try to just bogart. I started a Twitter, guys.
Well, I'm gonna be posting basically just stuff like when we're recording and just saying anything. Just check it out. Follow me on Twitter. It's just Paranormal Roundtable, 3 words. And also there's the PayPal. We don't want to forget about that.
Yeah, Anthony, you want to?
Yeah. Since we got demonetized from YouTube, we set up a PayPal. So if you want to support the show, you can support it with any amount you want, and any small amount helps. And we're really grateful for all the support we've gotten so far. We've actually been getting donations, and to everyone who's donated, thank you very much. We're gonna put the PayPal link in the description of every new video upload. So we've got a PayPal, and we've also set up a website. That website is prtpodcast.com. It's just the 3 letters PRT and then podcast.com. You can also donate from there. You can also listen to every episode of the show on there. You can subscribe on all the different platforms we're on from the website. You can submit your emails, your encounters from the website, and you can also submit if you're an artist and you have some artwork that you want to submit. Yes. You can submit it from there. We actually have a little fan artwork gallery set up on the show, so on the website, so that everyone who goes to the website can go and check it out and see all the cool things that y'all make. And
James Lowe,
cool.
James Chris Cyrus, actually, and what's his name, Sam Sneed. They've all contributed.
Roger Carter, he's a really good artist, and I need to put his artwork on the website. He made a really cool illustration of that Gargoyles Key episode.
He is a very good artist. Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of people who are, and also I wanted to tell everybody there is going to be a Dogman conference coming up, but that's all I can tell you. Like right now, the people that are in charge of
setting it up.
We're not going to give away details or anything yet, but I wanted to get you started on getting excited about it because it's going to be pretty cool, I think, and I will be attending. And so as we get more details and more stuff starts to fall into place, then we'll let you know. You're on a need to know basis, people. Okay, and right now you don't need to know. I'm just kidding. When we figure out what we're doing, because we've been invited, then we'll let you know, and then we'll get you excited about it, and we're gonna, because when we go somewhere and we hang out somewhere, we have fun.
Yeah, I mean, we're all together. It's normally a good time because we can all make each other laugh. So
not really. You're not that funny, but
it's make myself laugh. I'm talking to myself in the mirror. I didn't know you guys are there most of the time, but
I mean, we can laugh at him.
Yeah, we can laugh
He's
at
good
you.
For that. He's like an Asian male version of Meg from Family Guy.
Oh my gosh!
Wow,
you're giving him too much credit. Yeah. But so folks, anyways, we wanted to get all this out of the way. We've been criticized and chastised for talking too much about different stuff that's not pertaining to the stories, and I promise you we're going to get to the stories. If this goes over a little bit over an hour, I will give you the full hour, okay? Just let me get this
we're
stuff
about 10 minutes into it right now, so you can go an extra 10 minutes with the stories.
We won't make it up to you, okay? We're going to go a little longer to try to make it worth your while, because we do have some stuff to talk about, and it's creepy. But here's the thing, guys, okay? I want everybody to know that we truly appreciate anybody that's donated. The thing is, we have to pay someone to work when we're all off. There's 3 of us that have to do the show today, and so we have to pay people to do our job for us. Like literally, we have to pay like today, Taz's girlfriend is working for us over there, and I appreciate it. And sometimes Taz or Willie, he works for us, and we got you got everybody working, Scorpions working, everybody's got to work for us while we do the show. So we have to pay those people, and that's where. And then it takes hours to do editing and all the other things. So yeah, it costs money to do the show, and then we have to pay Lipson and all these other people to do the good folks at Lipson to do our to put our show out. So it costs money, and so we just need to cover that at least. So because we're not trying to get rich.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention we're also. We're in the process of making some merchandising. Yes, that's another thing.
Yeah, that's in the works right now. It's not completely done. We're going to order some samples of some designs that we've got. We've got some t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and different things. But once we figure out all the logistics of that, then we'll get the store set up, and y'all can go and have a blast and give us all your money.
And that's where the artwork comes in too, because we're trying to decide on who we're going to use and whatever. And here's the thing, guys. I mean, if you have artwork that you're willing to donate and submit to, and for it to be, I guess,
if you could give us permission to sell it, if that would be great.
Yeah, because I mean, it'll be immortalized, and we'll give you credit for that too. If it's one of those things where you want us to pay for it, then you know what, forget you. But I'm sure we could work something out if it's pretty epic. We'll figure it out.
We can talk about it.
I don't know. I'm pretty greedy.
Well, I'm not, because I'm a good Christian man. But Anthony, however, yeah. But so, anyways, we're gonna get into the show here. What we're talking about today.
Well,
I give Tony, I don't even know. I honestly, right now, do not know what Tony's going to say, because I gave him an option of about half a dozen different things.
Yeah. And, I thought about it, and I was saying like, oh, well, should we do a potluck? But I was thinking like, there's one story, like if we have time, we can talk about other stuff, but there's one story that I definitely wanted to hear that, I think you mentioned it to me when I was younger, but I forgot about it. And
the hooker with the dysentery?
Yeah, that one was fun. That's not the one I was talking about, but I was thinking of, it's a ghost story, and you said it's a ghost story about a house that when you were working on a security site or something like that.
Oh, yeah. What you're talking about, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about the house in the middle of Austin. It's in the middle of an older neighborhood in Austin.
I don't know. I mean, all I know is that you mentioned working here, and you said it was, I think you said it was before you moved into your other house.
Other house, yes.
Yeah, so it was like one of your first.
It was not one of my. It wasn't my first, but there was the bank building that I worked at, and that building.
So
was
that
haunted.
happened before.
And then this happened after that, and this was when I went to another company, and yeah, I was working in the projects. And so my boss came to me and said, hey, I just went in there to get my check one day. And he goes, hey, man, I got a site coming up, and it pays a couple dollars more per hour. And so I was like, oh, cool. Well, he didn't say anything about it again. And then I heard that this other guard was working it. But then after a couple days, I guess he quit. And so I told him to keep me in the loop if it, because the other guy had said he wanted it, but if he didn't take it or whatever, to call me. So then they called me and they said, hey, would you like to go? And we had enough guards to cover the east side at that time. So I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I mean, it was hot. I remember it was like May or June, something like that. And so I was like, I jumped at the chance to not have to be out in the hood for which paid that being working out in the hood paid a little more too, but not as much as this. And so I thought, so I asked him what the duties were, and he goes, you literally just going to be inside the house doing nothing according to our contact. And so he said, he gave me the guy's name, and he said, he'll meet you there at the house. So I thought it was like the owner of the house, but it wasn't. When I showed up, I met a lawyer. And the lawyer said, I'll call him Max. Okay. His name was something close to that, but we'll call him Max. So Max told me, he said, the job is very easy. He's like, you can sit inside the house. You'll get here on duty about 5:36, because the hours changed a little bit, depending on how long he would be there during the day. And so, because he was taking care of some affairs, because what happened was somebody had had died, and so he had to have security there. This person had do what?
Oh, why?
This person had children, and they were disputing it was a nice house. They were disputing the validity, I guess, of.
So it was like they're passing it down, and
and I guess one child was like the custodian of the will or something like that. I don't know the whole, or not of the will, but like I guess they were the beneficiary, and then they were going to divide up everything. And there were 5 kids, and they were all like in their 40s or whatever, and they were not happy with the distribution of the way things were supposed to be. And then when I went inside the house, then I learned that there was a lot of very, very nice things, like beautiful oil paintings and an organ. And folks, Austin has a lot of really nice old neighborhoods. I'm telling you, and some of these old neighborhoods have really nice houses in them. And this house was nice. From the road, it didn't look as big as it was, but it went back a long ways, and it was a pretty big house, and it was an older house. It wasn't like I went inside, it was like creepy, Addams Family creepy, anything like that. And it was it was kept up very well for being an older house. It was kept up. It was very nice. The lawyer took me inside, and he showed me around. He said, he asked me what the deal was with the other guard, why he was having to train another guard, because he wanted to just work with one guy, and that didn't happen. And I said, I don't know. I don't know why he left. And he said, well, apparently he left in the middle of his shift, which he was not happy about. And he goes, "You're not going to do that, are you?" I said, "No, sir. I had a sense of duty." And I said, "No, I'm going to stay here. I'm not, And he goes, "You don't scare easy, do you?" Because apparently that guy was scared or something,
Well, that's not
and he didn't know the whole story about why he had quit and whatever. And I had asked James, my boss, why that guy had quit, and he was vague. And so I guess this lawyer, he kind of asked me for details. All he knew was the guy had left because something scared him or something. And so I was like, I don't scare easy. That's like, I'm not going to take off in the middle of the night, whatever. Well, my first day there, okay, I kind of figured it out, like, what had gone down.
Well, he left.
Yeah, after the lawyer had left or whatever, and he told me that there was him and one other contact, and all there was a home phone, and he said when you get there to call in on this home phone, and I would talk to a female, who was like I guess a paralegal or whatever, and I would call in to her, and the hours would alternate. Sometimes I was coming in at 4:00 and staying till 7 a.m. That's a long shift.
You always left at 7 though?
Yeah, every morning I left at 7:00. So you figure you're going in at 4:00. Was that like 15 hours?
Just about.
Yeah, and I think the longest shift I worked was like a 16-hour. So you're inside this house for more hours than you are at your own home. Okay, so you're basically living in this house.
Yeah.
They had a refrigerator, so you could bring your lunch, and you could put. Of course, they had everything. I mean, they had a nice TV. There was a den. There was a sitting room, which had a lot of nice stuff. There was 5 bedrooms. It was a nice place. I mean, and it was big, And so the lawyer literally told me, he says, all you got to do is lock the house up and don't let anybody come inside other than me and the other lady that was Michelle or whatever. I don't know.
Not even the kids? Not even like the main
Nobody.
kid?
He said nobody. And none of the kids were allowed in there. Nobody was allowed in there because they had to sort out the legalities of whatever was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say somebody was disputing the will or something like that. I'm not real sure. But anyways, I know that. And then they were supposed to be auctioning off some of the stuff. And there was some nice stuff in there. And they had it all cataloged and stuff. They were doing that during the day, And so, and there wasn't any way I was going to be able to take anything, damn it. Just kidding, folks. I'm not a thief, but no. So anyways, there's nothing I could take or anything, and so they had stuff in boxes like that they were going to be selling, auctioning, whatever, at an estate auction. So there were some nice things in this house.
Mm-hmm.
So I go into this house and I walk around, and like I go to the master bedroom, and you could see like somebody they had been there very recently, like sleeping in that bed.
Like the resident, like the person.
The person that was deceased. And from what I get, it was a female. Apparently, her husband had died a couple years before because over the course of the time that I worked, I can't remember exactly how long I worked there, maybe 3 weeks. There was like a lot of weird stuff that went on, but I remember going in there and seeing like medications and stuff like that like you could see that it was pretty recent. Now on there was a grocery list that was written on a piece of paper, like that was magneted to the fridge, and it said pick up medication like May 14th or something like that. And I remember reading that and thinking that's like that was like they had stuff planned out and then they died. You know what I mean? So this person had died pretty recent or whatever.
Oh, you said it was June, right? So that's barely a month.
Well, it was like May.
Okay.
I think it was May. And I worked there from like I think mid-May to mid-June.
Oh wow! So
yeah,
I mean, that's basically nothing though. I mean,
it was
if
like
they
a
had
month.
May 14th.
And then of course I looked at the calendar and I think it was like a couple days before. So they had died like just a few days. They had been deceased. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not very long. And it was an elderly female, and I saw pictures, and I did go in and kind of look at, like, I found some old photo albums and stuff, and I looked at some of the pictures and stuff. We were told, that the company, our company, that they didn't have a problem with me going in there and sleeping. If I wanted to sleep, they told me there was a guest bed, and I could go in there and I could sleep.
Oh wow!
So basically, you're just living.
It's a dream job. I mean,
you're getting paid to just go to sleep, and so during the day I could go run errands and do whatever I wanted. So I thought this is awesome. So the first night I was there, that's what I did. The first night I was there, something weird happened to me right off the crack of the bat. Though the very first night I was there, the Spurs were in the playoffs, and like always, they're perennial playoff contenders. And I was sitting in the den watching the game, and I remember they were losing, and I remember saying the F word,
I mean, you do care about your team, so I can see it. I already see you doing it.
I get pretty aggravated with my Texas teams, and so I got mad, and then something went like cracked or broke in the kitchen. So I got up to go check it out. Now we were armed. We had mace and gun and all that stuff. And I was, so I was fully armed and everything else, but it was so relaxed that I didn't have my uniform. I just took the uniform and took it off and was just kind of chilling in my undershirt,
Yeah.
So I go in there to the kitchen because I hear something what I thought was a crack. And so I actually reached for my gun because I thought, okay, somebody's already trying to break in. I mean, you're there for a reason. People were, aggravated. They could try to break in. And so I announced myself as security. And I heard something go like across the floor, like the tile or whatever. You could hear like somebody shuffle like house shoes, like and I was like, whoa! And like it sounded just like somebody walk across the floor. And I see this. There was like I don't know if you know what these are, Tony, because you're young. But folks at home, if you can imagine, it was an old cookie jar shaped like a. I think it was like a Wizard of Oz, like the Tin Man type. It was like
jars,
but cookie jars are ceramic, and the head comes up.
Yeah, and you take the top off.
Well, they used to be very popular, and they were all there's all kinds of them. And if I remember correctly, this one was like a some sort of like character. I think it was Wizard of Oz, something like that. And it was laying on its side, like somebody had dropped it and it fell off.
Knocked it over. Was it broken?
No, it wasn't broken. No, but it made noise that it got my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, that was weird. And it happened right when I said the F word. So I thought, that's weird, and like I knew I heard like a crash or a crack, or something. That's all that I found out of place in the kitchen. So I just thought, okay. And so I went back into the living room or whatever. Well, here's the thing. All the years I worked government housing and all the years I've worked these really bad places, I've only pulled my gun once or twice. And I pulled my gun that first night I was there because I didn't know what it was. And so that was the first incident that happened. And then but there was others. There was another one where one day I was sitting in the, I say one day, this was later that night. I was sitting in there after the game, flipping through the channels because, you're not doing anything, getting ready to go to bed because I'm getting tired. And it was about 1 a.m, and I hear, and I'm like, what is that? And so I follow the noise. I go out to the kitchen, and it's the garage. this was really freaky. I didn't know what was,
Wait,
so I go out into the garage. It was the garage.
it opened?
The garage door was opening. Yes, it was. It was opening. The garage door was just opening. And I was like, whoa, like what? Like, that was weird. I didn't know why the garage door was like it was making this loud noise. And I didn't understand why or how or who or what. And I walked outside. It was a very quiet neighborhood. In fact, you've been through that neighborhood, Tony. It's very big houses. They're kind of set far back from the road. They have big yards, as you've seen. Yeah, it was weird, man. I mean, like I walked out into the front yard, and I put my shirt on, my uniform on, so I'm walking out in the front yard, and I look, and there's nobody out there. I did see one of the neighbors like looking out their window because the houses aren't real far apart from each other. And she was kind of looking at me, and I thought, well, maybe she did it. I'm thinking, well, she was some older woman, and she was sitting there, like obviously, like looking out the window, because she was probably wondering why a guy dressed up like a cop was wandering around the front yard.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of waved, and I walked back inside. Well, I actually ended up talking to that person the next day, and they gave me a lot of insight into what was going on, at least from what they understood. The woman had a heart attack and had just died. She was not real old. She was in her mid to late 60s. She wasn't like, real, the pictures I saw of her was that she didn't look like she was like some 80-year-old woman. So yeah, she was like in her late 60s, I guess. And so she had just died suddenly. Her husband had died of cancer a couple years before. And I had found a hospital type bed that was in one of the guest bedrooms. And I guess that's where he was sleeping now here's a funny thing about that. I don't want to say funny because that's not the word, but I was walking down the hallway one day to go to the bathroom, and I heard a cough. And that was something I heard like quite frequently. I heard somebody clearing their throat. That sounded like a male clearing their throat. And the neighbor lady had told me that he was sick for a while before he had died or whatever, but that he was a very nice man, but their kids were not necessarily good people. The kids were kind of, I guess, spoiled, and they believed that it was, that they basically had just entitled, and there was one child in particular that was really bad, but then there was a one that was kind of like a good one that kind of like took care of the parents and did everything else. The younger child that they were talking about was not a good kid. He had stolen things and others. So I was kind of figuring that that's probably who I was protecting the house from. So I had to be leery of that person. I never saw these people. I never saw the children. All I ever did was talk to the lawyer. I called in. Once in a while, the phone would ring, and we had a system. It was when I knew the lawyer or his paralegal would call. They would let it ring a couple times and then hang up, and then they would call again so that I knew it was them. Okay. And we had a code that he would say, hey, this is so-and-so. And he'd use that word, and then I know it was him so we could talk. So, because he didn't want anyone else, whatever.
He didn't want you talking to them at all.
Not to talk to any of the children. Okay. So, yeah. So one day I'm sitting there in the in the den area where I watch TV, because there was a living room, a den, a sitting room. It was a nice place. I was sitting in the den, and there was one of those spotlights that come on when there's somebody that goes
motion detector,
motion detecting light. Yeah. So I'm sitting there in the den, and I see movement like in the corner of my eye, like a shadow. And then the motion light comes on, and I thought, "Whoa, that's weird."
Was this inside or outside?
It was outside. I was in the den, but there was like a little bitty room, like a sunroom, I guess they call them, that goes and then out after that it goes out into the backyard, which was humongous, and so there was a motion sensor that went off, which isn't that unusual. I mean, it could be a possum or a raccoon or something. It could be a squirrel. But I walked outside to go see what it was, because I did see a shadow that was shaped almost like a person. And so I was kind of like, what is that? So I go back there, and I hear something moving near this big. They had a big shed, very nice wooden shed that looked like they had built it, from the ground up or whatever. It wasn't like one of those manufactured ones. And so I heard something move toward that, and I saw that shadow, and so I was fully convinced that it was a person. So I ran toward that and did not. I mean, they would have had to have tried to clear the fence behind the. And so I didn't see
to not be seen. Basically.
Yeah, and I didn't see anybody. The yard was well kept, and you could see clearly across the yard. I just saw like the shadow go around the side of the shed. So I ran over there, keeping my eyes on it, and I looked behind the shed, which there was barely any room. I looked around, all over. I tried to open the door; it was locked. So I looked in. There was a little window you could see in. I shined my flashlight in there. I didn't see anybody. And so I thought that was weird. So I go back inside, and then it happened again. Like it happened like over the course of working there for 2 to 3 weeks, whatever it was. It happened several times.
What time? Do you know? Like what did it happen?
It would always happen. This is weird. It would always happen around 1:00 when these weird things would happen between 1 and like maybe 4 in the morning. Like the outdoor stuff. Yeah, it happened around that time. Now the other stuff happened all random times. I got pretty comfortable there. Like after about a week, I just kind of got used to being there. But I don't want to say I got comfortable, but I was like, I just was like, okay, there's something here. I had dealt with it before when I was working at this bank building. And so I just felt like, okay, it's haunted. It's haunted, but it wasn't like I felt anything malevolent, from it. It wasn't like evil. And I honestly just thought that it was the spirits of the people who had died there. There was a time when I was in the bathroom. Well, there were several times, but one in particular, I was in the bathroom and I could hear the toilet from the other bathroom flush. Like the first time it happened, I guess I should say, I was in the bathroom and it flushed, and I clearly heard it, through the wall because the one bathroom was on one side, and then there was like you go down the hall and go around into the master bedroom and then that bathroom. But the bathrooms were actually kind of like you could hear them. Like they were, the way it was built was like there was a bathroom and then there was a wall, then another bathroom. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's even then, like even no matter how far it is, like it's an empty house. You're going to hear it.
You're going to hear it, yeah. But I heard it clearly, like, and it sounded like somebody messing with the toilet. And so I thought there's somebody in this house and they are messing with the toilet. So I ran out of the bathroom, went into the other bathroom in the master bedroom, and there was nobody. The toilet water was filling up, though.
Like someone just flushed it.
Yes, somebody had flushed it. So that freaked me out. So once again, I grabbed my gun and I started going all through this big house and checking every nook and cranny. And I'm talking like I checked everywhere. Pretty much every inch of that house. And I was like yelling, I'm armed, this is security, I had walked into a couple different rooms where I heard what I thought were somebody walking, like in the other corner of the room. The bedrooms were really large. I'm getting the chills right now. I'll tell you a really
freaky,
terrifying story that finally happened about a week after I was there, which really made me think about not working there anymore. I walked into the bedroom where the old man had spent the last days of his life. And I heard a cough as I was walking down the hallway. I heard not a cough, but like a clearing of the throat, kind of like that. So I go into the room because I thought I clearly heard that. I mean, it was like before that, it's like your mind's playing tricks on you type things, whatever. This was no figment of my imagination. Somebody cleared their throat, and it was real close to me. And so I ducked into the room real quick, and I pulled my gun out again. And I never worked a site that I pulled my gun out so many times. And I was just like, I'm armed, whatever. And I hear the shuffling of feet going in toward like this. The closet in that room was creepy too. It was like you go in and then you look to the left and to the right. It's like there's like hardly anything. It's just like you walk into the closet and then there's this. You look to the left and it's like a whole like almost like a hallway. You know what I mean? Like it's like, and there's nothing to the right. The right's just the wall, and then and then you look to the left, and there's this long hallway, long closet.
It's like a dressing room, basically.
Yeah, it was creepy, dude. And so I look, and there was no light, the light was like one of those you pull switch, whatever. And so I had to use my flashlight. And I saw, when I shined my flashlight down this hallway, I saw a shadow. What looked like a shadow hunched down in the corner. And I thought, what is that? It looked like someone squatting down, like, okay, like imagine if a person was hiding from you and they went to squat down to hide from you behind the clothes because there were a bunch of clothes in there. That's what it looked like, but it was completely black, like a shadow. So yeah, so that I saw that. I shined the light on it, and it literally moved into the wall and just was like gone. Like it dissolved into the wall, if that makes sense.
Like faded into the wall, basically?
Yes, and I knew 100% that was not a person. I wasn't going to walk down into that creepy closet and go look to see what that was. I pretty much knew it was not a person, and so I just walked out of there real quick, closed the door, and then I closed the door to that room, and I never opened it again.
Like the entire time you worked there?
The rest of the time I worked there, I never opened it.
I would not go through in that room.
No. And so that was the end of that I just quit, you know, and I would hear it sometimes, the throat clearing and the coughing, and I would just ignore it. It just became a routine. Well, I did have a routine of working out, you know, pretty regular. As you know, Tony, I've been lifting as long as you know me. But I've been lifting for my whole life. So I would go to the gym and lift weights sometimes before I'd go on my shift because my workouts were kind of suffering a little bit because I was there so much. So I kind of had started up on a routine my second week I was there. And so I got in the habit of bringing my clothes and just taking a shower there because I had to, get up, go work out, run to the house, and pretty much was living in that house.
Yeah.
So I started to take showers there. Probably like the third time the third day that I did that, I took a shower there. They had one of those, this is creepy. They had one of those sliding glass shower doors with the frosted glass.
Oh, so
you can kind of make out somebody, you know. And like I said, I showered there a couple times. It was no big deal. I got used to hearing weird noises and stuff. I saw somebody walk on the other side of that frosted glass as I was shampooing my hair. Yes. And I look up and I'm like, yeah, you're kind of rubbing the shampoo out of your hair, you know, and you look up and you see this person, like there was literally clearly like a woman standing on the other side of that frosted glass, like looking at me. And I couldn't it's not, I say clearly, but you could see that it was a person and you could tell
you see the figure of
a female. Yeah. Yes. It looked like an older woman hunched over, kind of looking, like trying to make out like what she was looking at. Let's put it that way. Like if I had to figure what it was. And I was like, ah, you know, I mean, I freaked out. Like I screamed, like you can see the hair standing on my arms as I'm telling you this. It was creepy. And the person just like, it looked like she grabbed something from the counter and then walked out. And so I was like, whoa, what the heck? You know, what is that? You know? And so I'm terrified. I should have just like opened the door and the shower door and looked to see what it was that I was looking at. But I was scared. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared.
There's something about the shower that it's like you're naked. You don't have anything with you. It's not like you have something to defend you with. It's the most scary time.
My gun was hanging. My gun was right there on its holster and with my duty belt, and it was hanging on one of the rods. And so here's the freaky thing. Now, folks, I'm not making this up. This is the absolute. I'm just telling you what happened to me. I opened the door finally. I got out of the shower. My clothes, my uniform, everything were gone.
Like someone took it?
They were not on. They were not on the counter. The towel was on the floor, like somebody had knocked it off the counter or something, and my gun was gone. So that was probably one of the most disturbing things that ever happened to me in that house. Not probably just ever, you know. And I was like, oh God, you know. So I started panicking. I thought, okay, one of these people has come into this house, okay? Because I thought it looked, just like a person standing there. They broke in the house, and now they've taken my uniform and my gun, and I'm going to die naked and naked and afraid. Yeah, that was disturbing. So I got out of the shower, I dried off like as best I could, and I was panicking, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to call my boss and tell him somebody has literally taken my uniform and my gun. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I had my dirty clothes there, that I just worked
clothes.
out in, my workout shirt. And so I threw that on, and I was like, okay, this person has my gun. I have no cell phone. This isn't cell phone time. This was back before all that, So I just remember standing there, and I took a couple deep breaths, and I reached for the doorknob, and there was one of them old timey doorknobs that, how they have their metal, and in the keyhole, it's got those old timey keyholes.
Like that's not on the doorknob; it's underneath it or whatever.
Yeah, well, like there's like a big metal like square.
Yeah,
and then they have like a doorknob. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Yeah,
and then they have a keyhole. So I went down and I looked into the keyhole, and I looked, and I didn't see anything. And so I thought, okay, this person's probably going to ambush me. I had no choice, and it's either that or crawl, out of the window, and the window was kind of high up and small, and I didn't know that I could fit. I didn't know that I'd be able to do that. And then I thought, okay, and then I'm going to be outside the house locked out. So, so I was weighing all my options. So a couple deep breaths, and I just opened the door, and I just looked both ways down the hallway and was prepared to fight my assailant and do whatever it took. Well, immediately I stepped on something soft, and I looked down, and there is my uniform, kind of dropped and scattered.
Wait, so where's this bathroom?
It was in the hallway bath. It was a hallway bathroom. Yeah, I didn't go to the master bedroom.
That's what I was thinking.
No, I did not go and use the master bedroom.
That's what would make sense to me, because when you said, she went, you saw a female go in there, the first thing I thought, well, okay, so he's in the master bedroom.
Yeah,
she's used to going in there, but
nope. I saw this in the hallway bathroom. There were 3 bathrooms, and that was one of them. So I stepped on my uniform, and I'm like, okay, there's my uniform. So I grabbed it and I put it on real quick, and then I walked out into the hallway. My gun was nowhere to be found, and I thought, where is my pistol? And so I go into the den. I start walking around, and I'm kind of frantic at this point, and I'm like, I've got to find my pistol, and there's somebody in this house. Okay, here's what happened, Tony. I found my pistol in the den where I always sat and watched TV, just sitting there on the coffee table, and it was unloaded.
Like someone took the clip out?
Somebody took, somebody unloaded it and had it like sitting there, like, like it was very weird. That was very odd. I mean, and I don't even have words for how terrifying that was. So I grabbed it and I went around the house with my gun drawn, thinking, okay, you're playing games with me. And I at this point, I'm not 100% convinced that it was a person, but I was more thinking that it was, because it looked like a solid thing. And so I had to go through the whole house looking for whatever this was that I had seen. Didn't find it. Did not find nothing. The doors were still locked. Everything was secured. That night in particular, I'd grown accustomed to it. The spotlight, the
motion
detector light kept coming on and off. I had grown accustomed to that. That was just a normal thing. I tried sleeping in one of the guest bedrooms or whatever a couple different times. I slept in one bed. The first time I slept there, I slept in the den the first couple times, but the first time I slept there in a bed, I tried laying down in a bed, and something shook the bed and woke me up repeatedly, probably 3 times. And then I gave up, and I got up, and I tried to go to another room and do the same thing. And then in that room, I woke up one morning. I woke up at 6, like I usually do. I set an alarm, and I woke up at 6 o'clock. That particular room was peaceful, but when I woke up, the bed was tucked in. Like I was tucked into the bed. Which was another disturbing thing. So I'm laying there in the bed, and the sheet was completely, I was like stiff, like somebody had tucked me into the bed.
Like under, it was
very tight.
Oof.
Yes. And so I had to strain and move and, and get myself loose. That was scary in and of itself, just felt like I wasn't going to get out of there, And Then about the second week, I started hearing voices, which was another thing that happened frequently there. And toward the middle of the second week, if I'm correct, or maybe it was toward the end of the second week, I actually saw the guard that worked there for a couple days. I saw him when we went to get our checks. So I saw him at the office, and I stopped him and I said, "Hey." I was like, so, you worked over there at the house on, I'm not going to say the name of the street because I don't want people going in, because there's people that live there now, as you know. And the guy was like, yeah, I worked there for a couple nights, And I said, so why did you, I didn't know this guy real well. He didn't work with me in government housing, and the government housing guards were a whole different section. This guy was a patrol guard, which was in that company, and I'm pretty sure it's still that way. It's a pretty big company. They had their own, like the patrol division was separate
from everywhere else.
Yeah, and then the government housing guys were separate from the regular standing guard. Yeah. And we even all wore different uniforms. So that company, like I said, it's one of our competitors now, and they're very big. I'm still pretty much, I'm friends with the owners. I don't have a problem with them, whatever. They're good guys. But they built a pretty large company here in Texas. I ran into this guy, and he had transferred to patrol. He didn't want to do standing anymore, and he said that it was because of what happened to him in that house. So I asked him what happened. He said that something came up to him while he was in the bathroom. He was washing it, like he put water on his face, and just like in a movie, like a horror movie, the way he told me, he said he looks up and he sees this old woman standing behind him, and she reached around and grabbed his face. And he said that she was the way he described it was this old, ugly, old hag woman, whatever. And she grabbed him, and it terrified him. And so he ran out and wouldn't even go back in the house to get his stuff.
Yeah.
He said he left his bag in there, and he went back to it, and he was he was so scared that he brought his wife and his son to go in the house to grab his stuff. And he was not I'm not going to say he was like a really tough guy, because but he didn't seem like he was scared. He was ex-military.
He's a security guard.
Yeah, and most of the people that worked for us we had some off-duty cops who worked for us at that time too. And everybody at that company was like some sort of former military or something. And so I asked this guy, I was like, you were that scared? He goes, yes. He goes, it terrified me.
Well, rightfully so.
Yeah. If what he says is to be believed, then
what do you mean by grab his face though? Like, did he describe in more detail?
I didn't ask him a whole lot more detail because his wife was sitting in the car, and he was in the parking lot leaving. You know what I mean? And we had gone to get our checks. I'm pretty sure it was a couple weeks after I had worked there. So I asked him. If I asked him point blank, I was like, happened? Did you feel like something was going to kill you? Whatever. I did go into that kind of detail. I didn't ask him like just be specific, like what did she look like exactly? He just said it looked like an old hag looking woman, and that she grabbed him from behind, and literally he felt her hands touch his face, and pulled his head back, and it scared him. So he ran out, and of course he went and got his wife and his teenage son to go in there and get his stuff out. And he told me that. Like, he told me the absolute truth. Now, the guy that was our manager at the time, he died shortly after, I believe. He died, strangely enough, he got stung by ants out at the lake, and he had like some sort of reaction. Yeah, and he died. He was a really good guy. And so I went back into the office, and I talked to him, and I asked him, I said, what what do you know about this guy, the guard, and he goes, oh, he's a solid dude, man. He's been with us for about 6 months. He does his job. And I was like, I told him the crazy story that he told me. He goes, yeah. He's like, he told me that story too. But he did go into a little more detail with our boss, which was that guy that I was speaking with. And he said that the first night he was there, that he felt like something had pulled his leg, like pulled him by his leg and tried to pull him off the couch. And that second day that he was there, that's when something grabbed him, and he saw it in the mirror, and it looked like a woman. So yeah, because I talked to the guy kind of briefly as he was trying to leave, and I couldn't tell me all these stories while your wife sits there and waits, you know. So this guy was very adamant. Like, he told our boss.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have a good reason as to why you just left in the middle of the shift.
In the middle of the shift, yeah. And he was very, like, I mean, you know, even at the risk of being fired, because, you know, some people are going to be like, really? Okay, yeah, really, dude? They're not going to believe that. And back in the 90s, things were a little more not as open as they are now. You know, you didn't have 100 TV shows and 1,000 podcasts telling you that their ghosts are real, you know. So these dudes are both Latino. They're both Mexicans, you know. And so I guess they kind of like, I guess in the Mexican culture, we have a little more like superstitious, more, a little more leeway. You know, somebody says there's a cocoy, you're like, oh, really? You know, whereas if you talk to someone else, you're like, really? Yeah, okay,
I mean, my mom's the same way. I never doubted it.
Well, yeah, because your mom's
tell me, and
Vietnamese, and yeah, the Vietnamese have a lot more. You're open to that, you know. Yeah, and so these guys were, he was kind of friends with our boss, I guess, you know, and so he told him exactly what happened to him, and he made no bones about it. So that was pretty disturbing. So I guess it was like toward the beginning of the third week I was there, I was kind of growing weary of you couldn't really sleep good there. I wasn't getting good sleep, you know. I was not as comfortable in certain areas of the house, but I was a little more comfortable in other areas, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. But there was a sitting room where they had stockpiled a bunch of different things that were supposed to be, when this was supposed to be sorted out or whatever. And eventually it did get sorted out, and then they told us they didn't need us anymore. But yeah, so toward that last week that I was there or whatever, I was in this sitting room, and there was what I thought was a piano, and it was covered. And so I went to open it up just to take a look at it because it was shaped funny, you know. Well, it wasn't a piano; it was a pipe organ. Yeah, it was you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's the one with the tubes coming out the back.
Yeah, and it wasn't a real big one, but it was nice, you know. And I thought, wow, this is cool. And so but I didn't really mess with it. I didn't really mess with it too much because I knew that there was something in that house, and I didn't want to be too. I did find a bunch of oil paintings that looked like they were painted of people, like, you know, they all kind of had a familial resemblance. So I knew that they were, you know, and I found one, and I knew, I just kind of felt like I knew that was the person that was like, that was a very important person. You know what I mean? Like that was her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And this was before I had looked and seen a bunch of photos, or whatever. Like I'd looked through. It was a painting of who I believed to be
the resident,
the woman that had died, and when she was probably in her 20s. She was a very beautiful woman, and I later confirmed, like looking through photo albums of and found some that were old, and found that that was her. And it was weird because it just kind of stuck out to me, you know. And when I, you know, was staring at this picture, I turned around, and I kid you not, as I'm walking out of this sitting room, I hear, "It's me."
Like in a female voice?
In a female voice.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally heard, "It's me." Like I heard that very clearly. And so I turned and, you know, thought, you know, once again, I have to check. So I went around checking, and there was nobody there. There was like one of these like accordion type doors, you know, that you I don't know if you know what those are. They're like a folding door.
Oh, okay.
And then they have a little metal latch. And then you don't see those too much anymore, but they used to have them in sitting rooms. They were closed off to the rest of the house, and you only went into the sitting room for special occasions, like, you know, Christmas or, you know, having guests, whatever. And we didn't nowadays, which I think, folks, is completely rude. When you go to someone's house and you visit them or something, and they have the TV on while you're trying to talk and visit, it's just, I hate that.
Yeah.
Or you'll be sitting there visiting and talking, and somebody will come in the room and just turn the TV on, and then you have to have that background TV going all the time.
Yeah, you should have special rooms for special stuff.
Exactly. Well,
if you want to watch TV, go to a lounge or somewhere else.
Yeah, go to another part of the house. Even if there's a TV in there, that doesn't mean you need to watch it everywhere you go, you know. But back then, you know, these in the older generation, they knew that. They had a sitting room where they would sit and they would commune and talk and drink tea or whatever it was, and they had a nice little coffee table in there. So these things, all these things went on. I'd say it was probably 4 or 5 days before the end of my stay there. Here's what happened. I was laying in the den. I had fallen asleep on the couch, which was kind of a routine at that point because I didn't like sleeping in the beds and what obviously. And I remember having a dream. And in this dream, this woman with reddish brown hair came to me, and I want to say that she looked young, but I guess you'd say she looked middle-aged. She looked younger than she did in
the older photo, in her later life, obviously.
In later life, but she looked older than she did in the oil painting. It was her. It was that woman. And she was standing over me in this dream type state, which I learned later from living in a house that had that you're really not dreaming. I think you're kind of like in an astral state. That's what I believe, folks. If you don't believe me, then you know what? That's what you want to believe. You know, this is my truth. Okay. And so I laid there and she touched me. She literally like took her hand and put it on my shoulder. And in this dream state, I guess you want to call it, or the dream, at that time I thought it was just a dream. Like I felt a cold shoot up from my fingertips all the way up into my shoulder, into my neck, that was so cold that it felt like pain. Like it hurt. And I was looking at her, and when I looked up at her, she was kind of grimacing, and she was holding her hand on my arm, and the cold began to go up into my head. It began to crawl down the other side of my to my other shoulder and go down my left arm, and I felt like I was being frozen, literally, and I could not move. I was paralyzed, and I was just like, trying to speak, trying to talk. And so I just began to think what I was trying to say. And I told her, I said, why are you doing this? I asked her, I said, why are you doing this to me? I'm like, immediately she pulled her hand away, and I kind of, I guess to say this sounds odd, I know, unfroze. Like I kind of unfroze, and I could move in this dream state, whatever.
But was it like a paralyzed?
I was paralyzed.
So like, like a staticky, or like where?
It was like I was cold, like I don't know what
like
it's like.
Stiff, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to be frozen because I've never been frozen, but it was I was being frozen and like with cold frozen, and I was paralyzed. I've never had that before or since, like in that, like something that was that in that way. I've been touched since in the house I lived in. Stuff would touch you, or weird stuff would happen to you, but nothing that dramatic, like where it was like she was literally touching me, and it was like she was. I don't want to say she was killing me, but I was frozen in place, and it was like she was doing something, and I got this the feeling like she was communicating with me, telling me that she didn't want me there. And then I communicated with her by telling her, and once I kind of unfroze, I could speak, I could move my mouth. And I told her in this dream state, I said, ma'am, you're deceased. Your physical body is gone. You were no longer on, in this world, in the physical world. You are in this house. I was like, and I am here to protect this house. I am here to protect your property, and to make sure that everything goes to where it's supposed to go, and everything is done the way it's supposed to be done. Like I communicated that with her. That was like, that's the only thing I could do. That's the only thing I could say.
Were you still like just doing it in your thoughts, or?
No, at this point I was speaking it. And then I woke up. And when I woke up, I was still talking. I mean, it was like fluid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I understand. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but I understand what you're saying. So where like you wake up and you're still like mid sentence, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was talking to her, and then I sat up, and I was awake, completely fully cognizant, and in the real world. I guess I don't know what is the real world, but I guess our physical plane of existence. And I stood up and I said, "Does that make sense to you? Do you understand? I'm not here to hurt you." I was like, "I'm not, going to do anything wrong. I'm not going to break anything. I'm not going to take anything. I have done nothing wrong to you. I am trying to protect this house. And I'm sorry that you died in the physical world, And I felt a sense of relief wash over me. But then I felt this overwhelming sorrow, like a sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of lingered for the rest of the night. And then a few days went by of absolutely nothing. No activity, nothing. And I spent the last few days there with nothing happening, and I felt at peace there, and there was nothing else. Nothing else happened. So
how many days were you still there afterwards?
4 or 5.
Okay.
Because I know that like on the 5th day, the guy called. I think it was the fourth day he called and said that the last day I think was like a half day, or I was going to only be there till midnight or something like that. And then he showed up, and that was that was the only time I saw one of the kids. That he was in the car, like when they drove up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was standing right there by the window, and I walked out and did not meet the lady, but I met him, and I shook his hand and said okay, and he said thank you, the contract has ended and whatever, and which is kind of odd. It ended in the middle of the night too,
Mm-hmm.
and but it was midnight. I don't know if there was something to that or whatever.
Well, it's probably just like you could that day, I guess. It was like it's the end of that day, so he just wanted.
Yeah,
who knows?
and so I did see a familiar resemblance to the young the woman that was the younger woman that was in the car too, and then there was like I guess a teenager in the back seat too. So I guess they were all like that was a grandkid maybe, and that was a daughter. I didn't speak to them.
Oh, she looked like the mom.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And she just kind of put her hand up to wave at me, and I just waved. That was the only time I ever saw the kids. I said I didn't see the kids, but I guess I did see her.
You never spoke to them.
Yeah, I never spoke to them, but I still don't know 100% that was, I was pretty sure that I saw a familiar resemblance, But anyway, that's that story. It's kind of emotional in a way to me because I felt like I explained something to this woman. I don't know. Maybe it was and folks, you can conjecture all and theorize about it all day long. You can expound upon how you what you think whatever you think this is. I don't know. Some might say that your mind just created it because of all the weird stuff that maybe you just were projecting it on yourself or something, or maybe that was just really a dream and you just made it that way. I don't know. It seemed very real to me, and I really believe that I interacted with this woman's spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that. I mean, that's
and the man. I mean, less so, but
yeah, less so with him, and I still kind of freaked. I don't know. Over the years of thinking about it, I've worked so many weird posts, and Tony, you've worked places that are creepy, dude.
I mean, I said it last a couple episodes.
And so I mean, I've thought about it, and it was not one of the most terrifying places, but it definitely had a lot of activity. I do believe, like looking back on it, that shadow that I saw in that closet was the old man. I think that he was kind of scared, and I think that maybe he went in that closet to get away from me, and he was kind of hiding from me because he didn't know who I was or why I was there, what I was doing there. Why is this large guy walking around our house with a gun? I don't know. I did talk to the neighbors on a couple different occasions. The neighbors on both sides got to know me. I was there every day. And I was out sitting in the backyard. They had a very nice patio with a little like patio furniture and stuff, So I was in the backyard reading a book one evening, and the neighbor was doing something, messing with something by the fence, and she kind of just waved over the fence at me. And I went up and I talked to her, and she did tell me, she gave me the lady's name. So I was able to address this woman by her name whenever I did speak to her in the dream state. She told me that woman believed that her husband, who had died in the house, was still there. Like, she still believed. And she kind of thought that the woman had turned the corner, gone around the bend a little bit, because she said that, I still talk to him. He's still there, and she thought, oh my gosh, this woman's got dementia, but, she probably did. He probably was there, and
which is honestly, I was going to say, like, I the first thing I thought when I heard that, which is weird, was like, that sounds oddly comforting,
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though it's later in her life, like, even though he did die, he was still there for her. Because I was thinking how sad it must be to be alone in a house like that. Yeah, a widow alone in a big house like that. I mean,
with selfish kids that don't care, all they want to do is take your stuff and you die.
Yeah, I mean,
you have maybe one kid that you can rely on.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I was like, it's sad that she did eventually pass, and he was, like, there was spirit for him basically, and that she didn't really understand what was going on. It sounds like.
Well, I think that she wanted to get rid of me.
Yeah, well, obviously,
and that's why she tried to, like, I think she manifested and tried to, if you want to postulate on, like, she tried to grab my clothes and throw them out and make me leave. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about the first guard. Like, if what he claims happened, like something grabbed his face, I don't really think she would be that malicious, but then again, when she was freezing me, whatever that was so weird, dude.
That sounds like a last resort, though, because that's obviously, you were there for, if that's like the last couple days, you were
2.5 weeks.
You were there for 2.5 weeks, and all she would do is kind of just, peep on you while you were naked. So, I mean.
Oh.
Well,
I was quite the specimen as a young man. I'm not gonna lie. No, but seriously, I just thought that this woman is an old pervert. No, I'm just kidding. It was one of those things where I kind of think that maybe he saw her,
mm-hmm.
and I think maybe I'm not gonna say he just totally fabricated
the
grabbing of the face, but he probably threw his hands up and was like, that's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he told me this story, he looked me dead in my eye. He was not like a scary dude. And I think he's a cop now, honestly. I'm pretty sure he's a police officer. I saw him. I ran into that guy, like, I think, several years ago, and he was a police officer at that time, but he was talking about opening up a private investigations business or something. And I've ran into various people that I've been in this industry with for a long time, whether in the club scene, doing security there, or doing security like we do, and you'll run into people, man.
It's a small world. You'll see people that you'll see all the time.
And I'll run into people and I'll be like, yeah, and the only connection I really had with that guy was that we both worked in that house. What I don't know is how much truth there is into it grabbing him, because I never have felt anything touch me until that night that I was touched and she was standing over me. That did happen like after I went into the sitting room, so maybe I by going in there and kind of messing with stuff, touched a nerve with her. Maybe like I shouldn't be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple other little odd things that happened to me. One was kind of creepy. I'll tell you. I guess it was probably the first week I was there, like halfway through the first week. I had brought some fruit, like a pear or something and a banana, and I sat them on the counter. And when I went back to retrieve them later on in the night, the banana was completely black, like it had rotted that quick. Yeah, and the pear looked like it was the same. It was brown. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that works. I've heard of people saying things like that. Yeah.
My mom says something like that. I mean, that's why my mom has a like a, oh, it's not like
The shrine?
A shrine.
The
It's
shrine?
basically like a shrine, I guess. But we would offer, gifts of like fruit
To the ancestors.
and to the ancestors
Mhm.
and water, and and I don't like I would have to ask her why exactly we would do it, but I remember there's always fruits and stuff like that in front of our shrine,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember one time, my mom said like, my mom was very spiritual.
Oh, she is.
She's very spiritual, and I remember one time she said, "Watch this," and what happened was she put down a Sprite, she poured it in the cup, and she offered it to the ancestors, whatever. And I can promise you this.
Oh, I know this.
Yeah,
I know
this, but I'm saying like to listeners, like I swear on like this happened that I would say maybe a minute, maybe 5 minutes go by, and I take a sip of that Sprite, and it lost all condensation. It was flat and had a horrible taste.
Had no taste to it. Yeah, and I was there at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you were there.
I was there at Thanksgiving whenever your mom made the plate for her brother.
Yeah, it's like
and so the Thanksgiving that we're talking about. Okay, your sister, she reached over and took a bite off of that plate, and everybody was all like, oh, like aghast that she did that. I couldn't believe that she did that. It was a very disrespectful thing.
Yeah, it was disrespectful, but I think she was just curious.
She was curious.
My mom said it was okay later on, but I don't know. I think she should ask first.
Yeah, at the moment, it was kind of like, why did you just do that? And everybody was kind of like, your family was kind of like, uh-oh, And I remember her just kind of looking right at me when she did it, and I was like, okay. Because that plate was reserved for the deceased brother. Yeah. Folks, this is somebody's cultural tradition here, okay? I mean, I'm not going to make light of it at all. That's what they believe. That's not necessarily Tony or me, but like his mom, okay? And she makes a plate for him at holidays. Well, his sister took a bite out of that plate. It was like, I think the dressing or something, and it had like no flavor.
Yeah, it was. She described it.
It was like eating nothing.
It was supposed to be a warm plate because she just put it down, and she said it was cold and it had no flavor to it. And it was like it sat there. It's like it sat there for a week, basically. Like it was just
it had been there for a long time. I can attest to this. Your mother gave me a mandarin, an orange, one of those oranges that was given to the ancestors as an offering. It had only been there for 2 days. Okay, according to her.
Well, yeah, I mean, we try to eat it.
I tried to eat it, and it had absolutely no flavor, and it was like chewing nothing. It was just weird. I mean, I don't even know how to explain that. This was my first encounter with like food going bad like that. You know what I mean? I was told at that bank building where I worked at by one of the guards, who's now a state trooper who worked there. He told me that place was completely haunted, and that there was something that would do that, like make your lunches go bad, and so if you left it out, and so I'll get into that in another time. But that never happened to me that I can remember. Like I remember eating food and going like, well, this is weird. I just remember being at that house and it going back and literally a pear turning brown and a banana turning black within like 2 hours.
Well, that's really weird because even at my mom's house, there's nothing that ever rotted.
Nothing rotted like that.
Nothing
no.
went bad.
I think
just lost flavor.
This was like something telling me that it wasn't happy for me to be there. That's what I feel like. And I just think that it's one of those things where, like the other little odd things, like I would be in the living room or the den or whatever, and I would hear the shower turn on, toilets flushing, And another common thing I heard was my name. Like I would hear whispering, but you never could make out what it was. And then I heard my name be called. I also heard the male voice calling out to that woman's name. Like I would hear it coming from that back room. I would hear the male voice say that woman's name. And that was before I really learned her name. And then anyways, folks, that's all the time we have for today.
Well, I had a quick question.
No more questions. We're done.
Just one.
No, we're done. No more spookiness. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, I was just... You said, like, you go from paralyzed to, like, you're, like, basically waking up. Was it, like, a numbness or was it, like, a thawing out? Like, was it, like, slowly disappearing from you?
That's a good question because I felt like the cold was dissipating slowly and that I was slowly able to move. Like, if your arm... okay, like if your arm, you're frozen, like, and you're stuck. Okay, your arm is cold as ice, and you can't move it, and the rest of your body is becoming cold and becoming paralyzed. Then it all starts to reverse. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like a thawing out kind of thing. Like,
and then you're kind of like, okay, now I can move again.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, I didn't know.
It wasn't instantaneous either way.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like like when you sit on your arm and it becomes numb, and like
nothing
you slowly,
like that.
Like that's what I was thinking.
Nothing like that.
That's
it was like being
ask.
frozen. And I can only, like I said, I've never been frozen, or folks I wouldn't be here talking to be dead. Never had frostbite. Had a friend who did. Now, I had a friend that had frostbite and actually lost a couple of his toes and 2 of his fingers. I will tell you that when I talked to him, I did describe that to him, and he said that didn't sound like really what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how to relate it to you. I don't know what that was being done to me or was done to me. Because that wasn't something that I ever experienced, like in that house I lived in either. Like nothing ever touched me and froze me or anything like that I can remember. And I don't remember anybody ever having that happen to them. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like maybe that was his last resort. Like you won't leave, and I'm just going to do this.
And maybe that organ that was her husband's, and you messing with it just aggravated her. I mean, who really knows? But
after I uncovered the organ, that's another thing too. I heard it a couple times, but like not in some dramatic fashion where you hear like,
yeah, I was gonna say,
no, it wasn't like
instrument
the Phantom of the Opera. No, it was just like I heard it, like like I would just heard a couple times, like I'd hear like and you're like, whoa,
mm-hmm.
Kind of like if the cat were to jump on it.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like just a couple notes, just real sharply, and then nothing else.
Yeah, and that was another thing too. There was a cat that I would like in the corner of my eye. I thought I'd see a cat, and that was weird. I mean, there was like a couple little things where I thought I saw like a small cat or a dog or something. Nothing too dramatic, but like nothing like the garage door opening and some of the other things that went on. So, folks, that's all the time we have for today on this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I just gave you a true account of one of the many ghost stories that I have from working security. There is going to be another one in the future we've talked about at a place like an old church, and I hope to get Scorp, but he can talk about what happened to him there, and we can go over some of that, because that place was probably one of the most terrifying places that any of us have ever worked at. But anyways, that was what happened at that house. There is one last thing I want to say about that house. We're about to stop here and then we keep going. Linda Godfrey wrote books, and I don't remember which one it was now, but there are 2 or 3 different encounters that happened around the Austin area. Dogman encounters, yeah. One of them was in that area.
Like around it?
Right near that house, yeah. Like literally down the street and around the bend from that house, there is where I believe that one of the encounters took place.
Is it the one near the creek or whatever?
There's near a creek, yeah. It's near a creek bed, and I believe it's in one of Linda's books where she talks about it. I hope to speak to her one day about it, and maybe she can elaborate on it or something. But I know that she talks about 3 different encounters in particular around this area. One is in Manor. Outside of Austin, where we're doing security at now, actually. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one that's that one there that's close by that house in the middle of town. This person saw it. And then one near the UT campus. Those are very weird. That's very weird. But you got to understand something. Austin is built into a forest. Like literally right down the street, like a block away from where we're sitting right now, is forest, literally. And down the street from where we live, there's forest. I mean, everywhere you go, it's starting to be cleared out now in every direction.
More people are moving in, but I mean, like we were looking for houses, and there was just one area. It's just long road, no lights, woods on either side, and it just seems like you're in the country, but you're about to get murdered. But no, you're right next to 35. There's a highway right there. And it's like it just seems insane. Like that's just right in the middle of the city.
Yeah, and where you turn, what you're talking about, where we turn, there's a Jack in the Box.
Yeah,
like you drive up, there's like a Jack in the Box,
and
and then across the street there's that Mexican restaurant that I used to like to go to sometimes. And then you take a left, and then you go down this long road, and either side is like wooded,
dark wooded,
and it's like there's barbed wire fence on either side. And you think you're out in the middle of the country, then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a big neighborhood.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so weird.
Weird.
That's Austin for you, though. Austin, Houston, they're all built into big wooded forests, and they're all on the water. Texas is very beautiful, but we don't want you to come live here.
Yeah, it's all desert. Stay away.
People think it's all tumbleweeds, and it's not. But anyways, folks, that's all the time we have for today. This time, I really mean it. That's it. We got no more time, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And thank you for bearing with us. And listening to us talk first few, several minutes or whatever about the stuff that we needed to get out. So that's it for us for today from the PRT team.
We hope you enjoy.
Yep, me, Tony, and Anthony, and our little kitty cat, and our doggies,
Bambo and Baby.
And Banjo.
So, someone tried to name the kitty Banjo.
Banjo, yeah, but Banjo's the dog.
In the comment, and no, our cat was already.
The cat's got 10 different names now, folks. I'm calling it Panzer because like a tank.
Yeah.
And plus
it's a boy now.
Plus it means panther in German, so I was like, that's cool because Das Wolf,
We saw some cool comments. We're still deciding.
We're still deciding, but we are pretty sure it's a boy now. But we'll get back to you on that. So,
they want to know the color. It's a gray and black. It's
gray
like
and
black
yeah.
striped. So yeah,
very beautiful,
very cute.
yeah,
very sweet.
We'll see you guys later.